truck takes about 200 people, and we've been complaining as labor about these things.
Ik werk nog alle jaren daar op Babylon Storen en ik maak alle jaren gebruik van hierdie transport. Als we gebruik maken van die wenen, dan maken we gebruik van een bakje. Dat is een 4x4 en dan maken we strips, maar nog steeds is die bakje gelei. So ik ben, ja, ik wil maar bij zijn werk komen en wel iets op zijn tafel zetten. So.
There is a transport, but that transport is very dangerous because some of the time there's overload on the trucks. Maybe you will find out that we are hundreds in one truck. So every time there's overload, then you because of months, but njengoba siqinene nje umzekelo kuxesha ngoku yi-COVID andithi kufuneka la social distance, but ngoku ayibikho, there's no social distance because the trucks are all the time they are overload. But we don't have a choice because we need money, so it's very difficult.
Our workers is dying the most horrific deaths on the farm accidents. On the 29th of April 2015, a young man by the name of David Conradi, he died in what is called a cycas, sort of almost like a tractor. It plants and it takes out wheat at the same time. And that thing have cut him to pieces. Only his face was still intact.
When South Africa went into its new dispensation, there was a time where there was no legislation for farm workers, so farmers could pay them up to anything. There was no legislative guides and so forth. And we've also seen during that period that, you know, people were really struggling and there was a lot of violations because nobody kept an eye on these things. But coming into the 1990s, you know, South Africa signed on to World Trade Organization. You know, there were certain agreements. We had to lower our tariffs. We had to open our markets. And here we were competing with highly subsidized economies in the north. So before, in the 80s still, South African farmers were subsidized. So they didn't have to struggle that much because their produce and all of that was supported. But that doesn't necessarily mean it translates into improving the livelihoods of farm workers. But come 1990, suddenly they didn't have that protection anymore.
The issuing of license is a provincial competency. We cannot pinpoint any farmer that has gone to jail or was even given a fine for the deaths of all our people that died in those tracks of death.
Farmers at some points, they don't care about their employees. And also when you look at the law, it's not much that is talked about or it is regulated in terms of transport. Hence, the farmers will do as they wish. As I said before, that they will tell you, there is no law that is forcing me to transport.
And there's no visibility of the traffic in these places because the trucks are highly overloaded. And you don't see that there's intervention from the traffic department side, that they find you in the vineyards. They are not caring about your safety on the roads.
The trucks is part of what we refer to as the health and safety issues on the truck. And the health and safety issues, it's almost non-existent on farms. And that is one area that is being hugely neglected. But that is neglected precisely because of the lack of inspectors.
We have 218 inspectors, and our mandate is stemming from Chapter 10 of the Basic Conditions of Employment that spells out the powers and the functions of an inspector. In terms of Section 64(1) stipulates that an inspector may promote, he may monitor and enforce compliance, conduct inspections at the employer premises, investigate complaints that comes to inspection and enforcement units, and then endeavor to secure compliance by securing and undertaking, issuing compliance order, contravention notice, prohibition notice, and further refer to court if the employer is still found non-compliant after inspection.
As Labour, what we've experienced over these years, I think things have not changed yet, where we find the question of farmers ignoring our labor laws. You go to farmers where those farmers don't respect any labor laws. And the sad reality is that we find that these farmers are treated with kid gloves when workers raise concerns. So what we're saying is that we should have stronger emphasis in ensuring that there's enforcement at all these farms.
Every time when there's an accident, the minister speak out and say one farm worker too many. It's not going to happen again. And once the story is quiet, nothing happened. And we don't want like promises anymore, man. We want commitments to regulate farm worker transport. We keep the momentum when it happened, and then everything fade out again. But it must become part of our campaign struggles, and decent work would include having safe transport to work.